What up players, happy new year's, it's Warboss Tail with this mud. Welcome to part 2 of how to paint a Beastman Bestigor for the Beastman army for the Warhammer Fantasy game series. Today we do a lot of shading, so let's go over the colors that I used. We do some Rayclan flesh shade on the skin tone. Then we do use a little bit of Rakarth flesh and Cadian flesh tone, which we haven't yet. We're also using some Steel Legion drab for hair color. Another color that we started adding onto, if I can find it. Where did it go? Ah, here it is. Rune Lord brass for all of the gold areas, which we started painting last video. And finally, some Agrax Earthshade. So this is how far we get today. As you can see, we've finished painting all of the areas that hadn't been painted yet. And yeah, we just did some building up of the golds, and then we darkened everything down with the shades. So hope you guys like this one, stay tuned for more, and we'll see you in the next video. Latest, players! Alright, so we're gonna get on with the shading today. Before we do, let's paint up a little bit more of the things that we haven't gotten to yet. So for example, we're gonna put some, let's do Cadian flesh tone onto the elf head that's hanging here right by our Bestigor's side. What I've noticed about Cadian flesh tone is it's pretty thick for a layer paint. So cutting it a little bit with some water, putting it on your wet palette first is really helpful. If you're using a different Bestigor body than this one, then of course this step doesn't really affect you. But if you have like a severed head, doesn't matter, it could be human, elf, dwarf. Cadian flesh tone is a nice balanced skin color. It's not as good as the old Talarn flesh. I think that was pretty perfect. I haven't found the skin color in any range that I like as a base coat for Talarn flesh, but it's a nice substitute. Next we're going to take Rakarth flesh for the zombie, or not the zombie, but the severed head here. I should have just done this when I was doing the first part of the video. I didn't realize that it would be painted in similar color tone to the skull that's popping out. The skin will be pretty similarly colored. The difference will be in the washes. I hope you guys are doing well out there, guys and gals who are watching this video. I've had a really great new year. My teaching job just started back up again at the school that I teach at, and everything is going really well. So I hope everything out there is going well for you guys and gals as well. Okay, we're going to take Rayclan flesh shade now, and this is going to go onto our Beastman's skin. Any area of the skin, like down here, his legs. It's gonna give a nice, what you would say, warm color tone, because it's a reddish. It's got like a reddish hue to it. And if you don't want your Beastman to have that, if you would rather him be dark and more animalistic, then you can use Agrax Earthshade instead. It's more brown. It's more, like I said, animalistic. It would look more like an animal. But I kind of am having an idea that I will go with this Bestigor being a former member of the Middenheim Greatswords Regiment that was mutated by Tzinch. So I'm gonna paint him up like a Middenheim, in Middenheim quarters on his uniform. Hopefully that'll be pretty cool for you guys to do as well. In fact, you don't have to. If you want to leave your Beastman in black, then that's of course an option. baby termagant from High Fleet Chihuahua outside. It's been raining a lot here in Hawaii, so he's out there. The last part is right here in the front. Yeah, it does a lot to really make the model look good. Okay, before we get onto shading the metal, let's put some Rune Lord brass onto all of the parts that we painted gold. Now this Rune Lord brass looks really nice. It's gonna look really good over the Balthazar gold and give a great brass color. Brass is hard to do because it's muted. I remember when we had the old color range, you veteran painters out there who used to paint with the old Citadel colors will remember that in order to get the same effect of brass, you would need to get shining gold, which is the old gold paint, and a lot more yellow than the Balthazar gold that we have now. You would need to get that shining gold, and what you would have to do would be paint it with the old shades Devlin Mud and Badab Black. Hello, Igor. Hello, Master. It's a lovely day outside. Igor, what are you talking about? It's raining cats and dogs. Well, I was hoping that it was only raining cats. I was standing outside, you see, with me big net. Unfortunately, ain't been no cats raining yet. But that's okay, I've got all afternoon. You know, Igor, when people say that it's raining cats and dogs, they don't mean it literally. There aren't really going to be any cats falling out of the sky. You're not really gonna be cats falling out of the sky? No, sorry, Igor. But Master, I've been standing outside all afternoon with me net. Sorry to hear that, Igor. And where did you get a net anyway? Oh, I made it. Out of various bits and bobs. I named her Funicello. She's... Yeah, you don't have to say it, Igor. I get it. Annette Funicello. If you're using this Rune Lord brass, you might find, like what I like to do is paint from, like I'll pop open the top of this pot and then I'll take my paint here from the top because it's, you know, you can control it rather than dipping your paint into the actual, dipping your brush into the actual like well of color at the bottom. You just have to make sure that you close the pot and shake it up every once in a while so that the color doesn't dry out up there. So we're painting all these armor sections, and that is gonna, man, this is gonna look so great. Rune Lord brass really does, like it says that it's Rune Lord brass, so like for dwarves, but man, Beastmen, some chaos stuff, Chaos Warriors, like evil armies, like all of them. Like look at how it shines really, really nicely. Balthazar Gold was just a little bit too red, but Rune Lord Brass, perfect. All right, next what we're gonna do is we're gonna take. Before we get to the shades, what I'd like to do is take some Steel Legion Drab, and we're gonna paint the hair of this head hanging by the guy's waist. And we're also gonna paint the hair of the human, or of the flayed skull that he's holding as well. You know what I think is interesting is that this was supposed to be an elf, right, hanging over here by his waist. And elves usually are depicted as having pretty, you know, flowy, long, flowy, Legolas length hair, and this one doesn't. It's chopped off. He used the top part here to tie the head to his belt, but like there are all these other strands down the back that are just hanging loosely, and it's because he chopped with the axe through the hair, through the head, through all of this. Ugh. So creepy, so gross. Speaking of gross, we're going to take our Rakelin Flesh Shade now, and we are going to paint in the skin of the elf head. And just give it a little bit of shade and depth. Just like that. Like I said, we're also taking our Steel Legion Drab and we're painting up the hair here on this side. So I've been writing this as a response to a lot of people who've commented, left comments on my videos. Is like a lot of people have said, oh, that my fluff for this guy is really cool because he's not just a goat man walking around the forest. He actually used to be a human trooper fighting for Middenheim, and then he was mutated by Tzinch. So I love coming up with stories for my guys. I think that's just really, really great. A great way to, we're gonna use Rakelin Flesh Shade again, a great way to give your army depth, some life of its own, and it really fleshes out for you, you know, what makes your army interesting. Master, you found your phone, Master! I know, I heard it, thank you, Igor. Oop, okay, sorry about that. So there's a little bit more to do. Painted Rakelin Flesh Shade on the skull there, for the face. I don't think I moved this. Sorry, just painting a little bit more Rune Lord Brass up here. Forgot about that spot. And we're gonna take Agrax Earth Shade now. So our new Devlin Mud. We're going to paint. First, if your hair is dry, your human hair is dry on the skulls and the elf, then you can do that. But I'm gonna wait a little bit longer. In the meantime, I'm going to dirty up this chainmail, son. You're basically going to use Agrax Earthshade to color in any metal, silver metal, and any bone. So, for example, the bones here across his front, the horns on his head, and the any skulls hanging from his waist. That should do it. So we got a lot of dark, earthy browns, reds on this figure here. And on the horns. Now with the horns, you want to make sure that you spread the paint out evenly. Take a look at each horn before you move on to the next one. Don't just slap a whole bunch of shade on at one time, because these horns, they're ridged and, is that the word, ribbed? They've got these little shallow grooves in them, and if you overlook one of them and there's like shade in all of the little notches except for one, then that one is going to stand out a lot. So what I found when doing these Beastman models especially, but also Warriors of Chaos have them on their helmets, is you just want to be careful, and you want to go over, just like once would be fine, go over each one of these once for good measure before moving on. Anyway, Master, like I was saying, if you were serious and it's not gonna really be raining cats and dogs, then I guess me and Annette need to find something else better to do with our time this afternoon. Well, Igor, why don't you and Annette hang out and help me film this Beastman tutorial? Well, yeah, I was doing that already. But I like, to take breaks and go outside, and I thought it would be raining cats and dogs. But really, cats, that's what I care about. But it's not. So now I'm depressed. I'm sorry to hear that, Igor. While Igor's talking, why don't we take some of this Agrax Earthshade and paint it into the armor plates next. Yeah, like I was saying, it's not a terribly big disappointment to me. I knew as soon as they said it was going to be raining cats and dogs, but there wasn't any falling actually, then I knew something was up. But it ain't right, Master. It ain't right at all. I love cats. I just wanted to see some falling from the sky. Igor, your voice is changing a lot today. I know, Master. I've been having a cold. I've been fighting off a bit of a head cold. That's alright then. We're also going to take our Agrax Earthshade and paint in the wood and the leather binding of our axe here. Hit any last pieces of metal. And that is going to be all for today. We're going to take a little break, let all these washes dry. The washes are usually the most fun part because now we get to see what the eventual color scheme is going to look like when it's all said and done. Just going to add some highlighting next, and yeah, we'll also try to do a little bit of the uniform coloring, so I'm really looking forward to it. Thanks for tagging along. We'll see you on the next one. What do you have to say, Mr. Beastman? Hee-haw!